I never believed in ghost stories, at least not until that summer. I was a freelance photographer, always on the hunt for eerie, forgotten places to capture. There was something beautiful about abandoned locations, the way nature slowly reclaimed them, the echoes of the past trapped in peeling wallpaper and rotting wood. When I heard about an old cabin deep in the Appalachian Mountains, I knew I had to see it for myself. A hiker had mentioned it at a coffee shop, speaking in hushed tones like he was afraid the walls would hear. "Ain't no one lived there in decades," he had said, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. "But sometimes, late at night, you'll see smoke rising from the chimney." I had chuckled, assuming it was just local folklore, probably squatters or some crazy old hermit. But something about his tone stuck with me. He wasn't trying to scare me. He was warning me. I should have listened. The drive up was rough. Twisting, narrow roads barely wide enough for my Jeep. The deeper I went into the forest, the more I felt isolated. The world I knew was slipping away, replaced by towering trees that seemed to close in around me. By the time I reached the trailhead, the sun was already dipping below the trees, stretching long, thin shadows across the ground. My map said the cabin was about a mile in, so I grabbed my camera, flashlight, and a small backpack before heading down the path. As I walked, the silence pressed in. No birds, no rustling leaves, just the crunch of my boots on the dirt path. I tried to shake the unease creeping up my spine, chalking it up to exhaustion. Then I saw it. The cabin stood in a small clearing, dark and weathered, its wood warped with age. The windows were caked in grime, the roof sagging in places. But something was off. The front door was slightly ajar. I hesitated. It could have just been the wind or some animal pushing it open. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been here recently. Steeling myself, I stepped onto the porch, the wood groaning under my weight. I pushed the door open fully, revealing the cabin's dim interior. Dust swirled in the weak light. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and something else, something metallic. The furniture inside was sparse. A rocking chair, a wooden table, a bed frame in the corner. And then I saw them. Photographs, dozens of them, covering the walls from floor to ceiling. They were old, some black and white, others faded color. Each one showed a different person, their faces blank, their eyes vacant. They all looked like they had been caught in a moment of fear. I swallowed hard, stepping closer. Some of the photos had names scrawled beneath them in shaky handwriting. Clara, 1943, Paul, 1967, Sarah, 1981. Then, at the very bottom, a fresh Polaroid. It was of me. The photo showed me standing on the porch, reaching for the door, just moments ago. My stomach twisted. That was impossible. I had come alone. A floorboard creaked behind me. I spun, my breath hitching. Nothing, just the empty room. The air felt heavier now, charged with something unseen. I backed toward the door, my heart hammering in my chest. Then I heard it, a whisper.
"You shouldn't be here."
I bolted. I don't remember getting back to my Jeep, only the sheer panic that gripped me as I threw open the door and locked myself inside. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone, ready to call for help. No service. Of course, I forced myself to take deep breaths. Maybe someone was messing with me, a local trying to scare off trespassers. That had to be it, right? I decided to sleep in my car for the night and leave at first light. But sleep never came. All night I heard things moving in the woods, slow, deliberate footsteps crunching on fallen leaves, a low, distant whispering that seemed to come from all around me. At some point, exhaustion took over. When I woke, it was nearly noon, and my Jeep wouldn't start. I tried everything, checking the battery, the fuel. It was fine. It should have started. but the engine refused to turn over. A sick realization crept over me. I was stuck. I grabbed my camera and supplies, deciding my only option was to hike back down the road. Maybe I'd get a signal if I got closer to town, but as I reached the edge of the trail, my stomach dropped. The road was gone. I don't mean covered or overgrown. I mean it wasn't there. The dirt path I had driven up yesterday now led straight into the dense forest, as if the road had never existed. I spun around, panic clawing at my throat. This wasn't possible. I had driven here. I remembered the turns, the hills. I knew this road existed. Then I heard it again. The whisper.
You shouldn't be here.
I don't remember making it back to the cabin, but suddenly I was there, standing on the porch, staring at the door. It was wide open now, inviting me in. I had no other choice. Inside, the air was thick, suffocating. The photographs on the wall had changed. They were all of me now. Hundreds of them, each capturing a different moment. Me sleeping in my car. Me standing at the vanished road. Me staring at the photos on the wall. And in every single one, there was something behind me. A shadowy figure, always just out of focus. A Polaroid camera sat on the table, a fresh picture developing beside it. With trembling hands, I picked it up. It was me, standing exactly where I was, holding the photograph. But in the background, closer than ever, was the figure. No longer blurry, no longer distant. Its hollow eyes stared directly at me. I dropped the picture and ran, bursting out of the cabin, sprinting into the woods. But no matter how far I ran, I always ended up back at that cursed place. I don't know how long it's been. The days blur together. My camera is out of battery. My phone won't turn on. I hear footsteps outside every night. I don't check anymore. I know what's out there, but today is different. There's a new Polaroid on the table. I haven't looked at it yet, but I don't need to, because I already know what it will show. Mr. Sleeping, and standing right behind me, waiting. The Polaroid trembled in my hands. I didn't want to look, but my eyes betrayed me. There I was, asleep in the cabin's rotting chair, my face gaunt and streaked with dirt, and behind me, no, not behind, inside. The figure's shadow wasn't looming over me. It was fused with mine, tendrils of darkness knitting into my outline like roots. Its hollow eyes were now my eyes, its skeletal grin stretching where my mouth should be. A name scratched itself beneath the photo in jagged letters. James, 2023. The walls began to peel, not the wallpaper, the air. Reality itself split like old film, revealing endless rows of the same cabin, each housing a different version of me. In one, I screamed into a void. In another, I clawed at the camera. In all of them, the shadow grew, consuming, until only it remained. A cold hand gripped my shoulder, my own hand, blackened and spectral. "You've taken the last picture," the cabin hissed through my teeth. "Now you become the lens." My body dissolved into ash and static. I felt myself spooling into the camera on the table, its gears now my bones, its shutter my blinking eyes. The cabin door blew open, sunlight filtering through trees that hadn't been there before. A new Jeep rumbled up the road. A woman stepped out, clutching her own camera. "Incredible," she whispered, aiming her lens at the cabin. I tried to scream. Instead, my new body, the Polaroid in her hand, clicked. The shadow pooled behind her, my shadow as her photo slid out. Mara, 2023. The cycle hungers.